with all that's left. Motions of everydayness and thoughts that won't leave, leaving behind another sameness. Gone days, when all that's gone brings life to your knees. You don't know what to pray, so you keep making pleas. I want to talk a little bit about who we are, because I think the coherency of our future depends upon us knowing who we are, and I mean truly understanding who we are, because our relationship to reality and our relationship to power is based upon that understanding. But sometimes I feel like I'm in a reality where we don't remember who we are, so therefore we don't know who we are. We speak a language we don't understand, and because of this we don't know where we are. And I think that we live in a technological reality, what love has to do, that these conditions are the result of a mining process. I'm going to call it a mining process. And there's a reason we are in this situation, but it's got to do with being fed upon by a system. Bone days, in the great need. So I want to go no more enough to who we are. Everywhere, chasing the see, we're the human beings. Holding and it's very important because we all know how to say the words. We know the terms. I know we know the terms because they taught them to us. They programmed this to us. And the words, human beings. Bone days. But our relationship to reality, someone want to hear, is in that definition. So human, and nobody's living here. The bone, flesh, and blood, the DNA of the human. The bone, flesh, and blood is literally made up of the metals, minerals, and liquids of the earth. So we are parts of the earth. We are shapes of the earth. We're forms of the earth. This is the form that we are. All of the things of the earth have the same DNA as the human does. Everything of the earth has the same DNA as the human. Everything is made up of the metals, minerals, and liquids of the earth, but the shape is just different. And the purpose is different. And being, we have being. That's our essence, that's our spirit. And all of the things of the earth have the same DNA as the human has, so all the things of the earth have being, spirit. And our relationship to power and reality is in that understanding of who we are. We are forms of the earth, and that's reality. Nothing will ever change that reality. What has changed is our perceptual relationship to reality. And what has happened to us through the millennium and through this whole technological perception of reality, what has happened to the human beings is to me, it's like a disease in one way. It's like this thing just kind of spreads. And as it diseases the spirit of the people, it affects the perception of reality. So in one way, it's kind of like that. It's like a possession. But in another way, it's almost like a mechanical thing, this mining process that takes place. Have their reasons. And it's almost like this thing that they call technologic civilization. See, it's predatory upon our lives. Anybody ever feel something's missing from their life? Like purpose or understanding or self-worth or whatever the deal is? They're mining us. Right? They're mining us. And one of the objectives of this whole technologic, civilized, perceptional reality has got to do with erasing the memories of the human beings. Because we have a common collective experience. We are all the descendants of tribes. Back in the time of the original dream, see, we were all tribes and we were all the earth's children, and we all knew that the earth was our mother and that we were a part of a spiritual reality, see, because we had being. We understood that there was a spiritual reality and we were physical in a spiritual reality. We being who we are today, however we landed in this reality, whoever we are today, we carry the genetic experience of our lineage from the very beginning. It's encoded in the DNA. It's like a genetic memory. Something about the experience of the journey. We have it in us. It's like But anyway, within our genetic memories, somewhere hidden in there, we all come from a people, every one of us comes from a people that understood that we lived in a spiritual reality. And because we lived in a spiritual reality, every one of our beginning ancestral peoples understood that life was about responsibility. So we were responsible for the past and the future as well as the present. And we understood that all things had being. So we knew who we were, we understood what we were saying, and we knew where we were. We knew our purpose. And this reality lives in our genetic memory because, see, as human beings, whoever we are, the individuals we are now, that experience is there. It's at 90% of the brain to tell us we can't use it. So they're using it.
Want to hear. What if the truth is seen and nobody's living here? Bone days, covering the night in the tears of the stars and the way memories run. Every ending has just begun. Bone days.
The promise is the lie someone's want to hear.
Bone days.
What if the truth is seen and nobody's living here?
By the time Columbus got here in 1492, see, people have many opinions about him, who he was or what he was, but whatever, see, he was really like the virus. You know? And the spirit was being eaten by disease, and it affected the perceptual reality of the human. See, so when Columbus and them got here, and we told them who we were, they didn't know. We said, well, we're the people, we're the human beings. But they didn't know because it wasn't a part of their perceptual reality. The concept was no longer a part of their perceptual reality. See, this is what happened to the tribes of Europe and the descendants of the tribes of Europe. And so I know that by the time Columbus got here, and I got a pretty good idea way before that, but by the time Columbus got here, the idea of a human being and people in that kind of a way was no longer a part of their perceptual reality. And we'll look at, but what did Columbus come out of? See, when he got here, this hemisphere had no protection to this disease because it had never been here like that. So there was no immune system to the disease as it moved, because the disease came through the wind and the water. So it was airborne in a way, and water carried. So it just took the shape of a man rather than something you can't see. But it arrived. All right, and this spirit that was being eaten, which made this diseased perception of reality. So by the time Columbus got here, all right, let's look about 1100 AD or 1000 AD, the church made the decision that it was God's government. It was the authority of God on earth, so it was God's government. And at that time, the descendants of the tribes of Europe no longer remembered that they come from tribes. This wasn't really a part of their conscious reality, because by 1000 AD, see, they had been owned by, they'd been owned for many, many, many generations by whoever claimed ownership of the land and started owning the land. And then they became fiefs, and they became serfs, and they became peasants. So they really had no reality about being a part of the tribe anymore, because they were just the property that was owned like whoever the landlord was, or the royalty at any given time that owned that land or claimed that land. They belonged to that land like all of the other natural resources of the land. But they still prayed to spirits. See, the women still had a stronger role yet from the old tribal way, and they still prayed to spirits. So the church, by 1000 AD or 1100 AD, it decided that it was now going to mine this resource. Save the souls of the heathen, see. So the church created the Inquisition, and basically the Inquisition was, number one, it was to change the perceptual reality of the descendants of the tribes of Europe. All right, and so they were terrorized and brutalized for 500 years in order to do this. But the way the church rationalized this was they were going to save. They wanted to possess the souls of the heathens and the pagans. See, they wanted to possess their souls in the name of their Lord. All right, so this war was about possessing the souls of the descendants of tribes of Europe. And in order to possess their souls, they had to alter their perceptional reality. So if you thought differently than the church wanted you to think, bingo, you were killed. You were tortured and your property was taken. And if somebody accused you, basically you were guilty if you were accused. You don't know, incidentally, during the torturing process, you'd probably say somebody else's name, so now somebody else is going to So they killed as efficiently as they possibly could with the technology they had at hand at the time. And they did it for 500 years. By the time Columbus got here, it had been going on for 400 years. And by the time Columbus got here, let's say 20 years to a generation, just for the lifespan during that time frame. All right, so by the time Columbus got here, the descendants of the tribes of Europe had been through 20 generations of having their spirit just completely attacked. And the way this possessed thing kind of just seems to manifest itself, so they became spiritually and physically now the possession of something else. See, then before that it was just physically. Now they had become spiritually the possession of someone else. See, so they had no clarity about reality. So by the time Columbus got here, see, they didn't know what it meant to be a human being anymore. It was just not a part of their spiritual perceptional relationship to reality. They were possessed, they were owned, they were property. You know, and one of the other things about this that kind of evolved out of that, I think it evolved out of that, was anyway, when the church was doing all of this to get the descendants of the tribes of Europe, all right, they finally figured out, well, hold it, if I want to stay alive and be a descendant of anything, I'm going to have to accept these people. So they embraced the church because they had to embrace what they feared. So they had to love what they feared in order to survive. And what they had to love, the thing that they had to love that they feared was possessing them. So it's like love and fear and possession as a perceptual reality kind of became intertwined at that time, and the human beings have not been able to sort it out yet. So that affected everyone in some kind of a way that's not been healthy for us as human beings. So anyway, anything and all of these things that have happened to us through our generational evolution has been a learning experience, has been a part of our evolutionary experience.